Paralyzing fear, overwhelming terror. This episode is about my experiences and what I like to refer to as panic attacks. Welcome to Bound Mama Family Lifestyle. My name is Mary. I'm 58 years old. I have 6 grown children. 3 of them are married, and I have 5 grandchildren. I like to share topics like faith, food, fashion, function, and fun. When I was a teenager, maybe 18 years old, somebody very close to me was experiencing what she referred to as panic attacks. And it was so bad that when her husband went out of town, she was too fearful to stay home alone, and she asked her parents if she could stay with them. And she related these experiences to me. And when I experienced my panic attacks in my 50s, it was a comfort to me to remember what she had said to me, to know that this just wasn't happening to me, that it happened to other women, and that they weren't crazy and that they got through it. And so that is why I'm choosing to share my experiences with you all in the event that it might be helpful to you all. And so I'm simply sharing my experiences. I'm not offering medical advice. I'm just sharing what happened to me and throwing it out there to you all in the hopes that it will in some way be helpful to you. I am not even sure that this is technically what is called a panic attack, but calling it a panic attack is the most descriptive thing that I could come up with as to what happened to me. In the past, I have never experienced nightmares. I have experienced what I refer to as anxiety dreams, and that's usually when I'm anxious about something and that kind of gets incorporated into my dreams. For example, I currently work as a cake decorator, and sometimes we have really busy weekends with a lot of orders. And on occasion, I will have a stressful dream where I have a lot of cake orders, and I wake up and I'm just like, oh, I cannot be thinking about this in my sleep. And I just pray that the Lord would help me not to think about it, that I would only have good thoughts when I was sleeping. I pray that He would put a watch over me and guard me even in my sleep, and that will take care of it for me. My first panic attack came when I was in my early 50s, and I was sleeping, and actually my husband thinks this was a nightmare. Maybe it was a nightmare, but for me, this is different than any dream I ever had. And I can remember my dreams, but I could not remember dreaming. What happened was I woke up, or I didn't wake up, but I was crying, whimpering, moaning in my sleep. And I woke my husband up because of the crying and whimpering, and he was able to wake me up and ask me what was wrong. I had this paralyzing fear, this overwhelming terror that came upon me, and it was just gripping fear. It's just so hard to describe how scared I was. And he was asking me what was wrong, and I was trying to think. It was really hard to think clearly because I was so fearful. And the only thing I could say was, I'm scared. And that really just described everything I was feeling. I'm scared. Only it was off the charts fright. Like I said, paralyzing fear. And so he's like, oh, come here. And he put his arms around me and he just enveloped me in his arms. And right away, that took the level down. And I was able to calm down. And he just kept consoling me and telling me it was going to be okay. And I was able to calm down. And I was just like, it just came out of left field. I didn't know what caused it. It wasn't an anxiety dream. I wasn't stressed about anything. I tried to analyze my life, and there wasn't anything particular that I thought would cause this. And the only thing I chalk it up to was menopause. I was in the midst of having very, very hot flashes. And I thought, well, maybe it was triggered by hormones. That's the only thing I could think of. And then I remembered this other woman who was very close to me when I was younger, what had happened to her. And like I said earlier, that was a great comfort to me, knowing that I wasn't alone, that this happened to other people. And I prayed about it. You know, I was able to go back to sleep. I was so thankful that my husband was there, because I don't know what I would have done if he wasn't there. I don't know how I could have come out of it myself if he wasn't there to comfort me. So I was very thankful that he was there. The second time this happened was very similar to the first time. I was sleeping, I was whimpering, softly crying, moaning in my sleep, woke my husband up. He woke me up, what's wrong? Same thing. This feeling of dread, overwhelming dread and panic that something was wrong. I didn't know what it was, but something terrible was happening. And I was confused. I couldn't figure it out. I was very fearful. I was very terrorized. And again, he put his arms around me. He said, "It's okay. I'm here." He brought down my stress level so where I could think. And I began thinking, okay, this happened twice now. What is going on? What is triggering this? And this second event was probably, it was months to maybe a year after the first time. So it was a good little distance between the first time. But still, I was like, okay, this is 2 times now. Is this a pattern developing? What's going on? And I couldn't identify anything particularly stressful in my life. It wasn't a stress dream. It, I couldn't remember the dream. I just remember this feeling of pure terror overcoming me and panic. And again, I was so thankful my husband was there and that he was able to comfort me through it. And also, I remembered this had happened to someone else that I knew, and she was able to get through it. And I just prayed about it. Lord, what is this? What are you trying to tell me? What do I need to do? And it did help me a lot to pray before I went to sleep. When I have anxiety dreams, they never happen when I pray before I go to sleep, but I always don't remember to pray before I go to sleep. So I tried to make that a priority. Our pastor, before we moved here, used to say, stay prayed up. Because when the crisis comes upon you, you always can't think straight. And if you prayed that morning or that night before you went to bed, you're prayed up. You're ready when the crisis comes upon you. And I thought, I need to stay prayed up. The third and last panic attack happened several years after the first two. And so this actually happened maybe 3 or 4 years ago. And it was a little bit different. I was in a stressful situation. We were having some difficulties in our family, some family struggles, and that was on my mind. And then we were also doing this remodel on this house, and we were kind of under a deadline where we needed to get in by a certain time. So we were working really hard on the house, and we were living about an hour and 15 minutes away. So we would drive here, we'd work all day. We set up some air mattresses in the basement. We were sleeping in the unfinished basement. And just to give you an idea what this was like, I had a bucket out in the barn. That was the outhouse. And we would work for a couple days, spend the night in the air mattresses. Then we would drive home, spend the night in our regular beds, take a shower, drive back out here for the next couple days and continue the process. But, we were managing. We were getting it done. But I can see how this time was different in that I was under stress that I could particularly identify. So one night after a hard, long day's work on remodeling the house, which involved, physical labor, we were sleeping in the unfinished basement and, on the air mattresses. We had them set up down there. And I woke up terrorized, screaming. I was screaming as if evil personified was chasing me down, as if some foreboding presence was after me, and I was screaming. And if I remember correctly, I think I was trying to point to this thing to my husband so that, he could protect me from this thing. And I was pointing to it and screaming. And this really freaked my husband out because nothing like this had ever happened before. The 2 other episodes happened years earlier. He'd probably forgotten all about them. And I was softly crying, whimpering in my sleep, whereas to now I was full out screaming in terror. And he didn't know what had happened. He didn't know if there was an intruder in the house, if I had seen someone out the window, so he was trying to calm me down, but he was trying to keep his back, guarded. He's looking out the windows like, what is it? What brought on this to me? All I could think of, I couldn't remember a dream. It just felt like some evil presence was after me and they were chasing me down. And same thing, I was so glad he was there, because something like that I think would be enough to drive me crazy if I was by myself. So, I guess he came to the conclusion that I was having some kind of episode, maybe a nightmare. And he was able to say, it's okay, I'm here. But he kept asking me, what did you see? What were you screaming at? And all I could say is, I don't know, I'm just scared. And so I was able to calm down. I was able to come out of it. And he was able to tell me how freaked out he was. And after a while, we were able to laugh at it, because he doesn't get freaked out easily, but he was really terrorized from me. And he explained it. It was as if he saw me standing on the edge of the bottomless pit to hell. And that was my reaction. That's how bad it was. We lay there on the two twin air mattresses, just kind of relaxing after this crisis of me freaking out, having this panic attack. And again, I was going into my analyze mode, like, why is this happening? Okay, I could see where I've been under stress, and I was in menopause. I was experiencing very extreme hot flashes. So I thought, okay, maybe it's hormonal. And as I lay there, I realized that the furnace was making a noise. It would periodically come on and then it would shut off. And when it shut off, it kind of made this tapping sound, this tap, tap, tap. And as I lay there, it kind of sounded like the tap was getting closer and closer to me. And I'm wondering if somehow the noise that the furnace made, that tapping noise, got incorporated into my dream. And that's what made me think that someone or something was after me. So I could see what brought on this attack, stress, the new home, the new sounds, the hormonal changes in my body. And it was a call to prayer, to pray more often. Like I said, stay prayed up every morning, every night before I go to sleep. And that was the last panic attack I had. And that was probably 3 or 4 years ago. And I still suffer from hot flashes, but they're very mild compared to what they used to be. And of course, we finished the remodel enough where we could get our bedrooms set up and sleep in our beds. And I think that probably helped too. I was very thankful that in all 3 events, my husband was there, and he was a great comfort to me and was able to calm me down. And like I said earlier, I'm not sure what I would have done if he wasn't there. I could see how this other woman was afraid to stay alone when she was experiencing the panic attacks. When her husband was out of town, she needed to stay with her parents. Um, and that's it. That's my experience. I hope in some way it helps you all. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it, especially if you want to hear more of my emotional exploits.